The MLB Gambling Podcast on the Sports Gambling Podcast Network is brought to you by Fantasy. They're coming new customers. Play just $5. Get $100 bonus funds. Use promo code MLB SGPN. And welcome, everyone, to the MLB Gambling Podcast here on the Sports Gambling Podcast Network. It is currently Tuesday, October 14th, roughly midnight Eastern Time. Reichel going solo for this pod. No co-host. Unfortunately, the schedule didn't exactly work out for the co-host. So either way, ended up having to do it solo, as we're going to get into the only game on the card for Tuesday, Game 2 between the Dodgers and the Brewers. Before we get into the actual breakdown of the only game on the card, do want to recap what happened on Monday. And before we get into what actually happened on Monday, a reminder that you can also check out the NHL Gambling Podcast, or the Hockey Gambling Podcast. Join Ryan and Joel as they break down the biggest games, storylines, awards, and best bets throughout the season. Let it slide. So, starting off with the actual recap of the two games that ended up happening on Monday. For starters, you had one blowout as the Mariners dominated, and they opened up a 2-0 series lead. So, after getting by barely by the skin of their teeth in Game 5 against Detroit in 15 innings, they have been in great form. They ended up winning the first two games against Toronto. They won the first game 3-1 and won the second game 10-3. They dominated on Monday. Nothing else really add. Polanco had the big hit as he had the throw-in homer in the fifth inning. Seattle jumped Yasevich early, scored 3 runs in the top of the first. Then Toronto eventually tied the game with 2 runs in the first and then 1 run in the second. Then the offense has kind of settled down briefly, and then Seattle exploded, scoring 3 in the fifth, 1 in the sixth, and 3 in the seventh. For Toronto, they scored no runs after the second inning. So Toronto went from beating the Yankees with a rest advantage, taking on Seattle, who barely got by against Detroit in 15 innings in Game 5. And they no-showed the 2 home games. Ended up getting outscored in those 2 home games by a total score of 13-4. So I'll start off with what happened in Game 2. Once again, Seattle's offense has been rolling, or at least it was rolling yesterday. Polanco's been great all series, had the big hit, and mainly the story has been Toronto's pitching staff being not very good. For the actual numbers here, Seattle ended up getting Gilbert, who started, not very good. 3 innings, 3 runs, 2 of them being earned. Then the bullpen came in and gave up nothing. Bizzardo, Vargas, and Hancock each pitched 2 innings, and they gave up no runs. So once again, the bullpen did their part. For Toronto, really bad. Yasevich gave up 5 earned in 4 innings. Varland came in, gave up a run. Fluharty came in, gave up a run. Fisher came in, gave up 2 runs, and then Rodriguez came in, gave up a run. So each of the first 5 pitchers that came in for Toronto gave up at least 1 run. So the bullpen, after shutting down the Yankees, or at least I should say, in big spots, shutting down the Yankees, have been underwhelming so far in the series, and Seattle's been able to jump Toronto. So now that Seattle's up 2-0, am I saying the series is over? No. I'm not going to fully admit that the actual series is a wrap, because baseball, we know, can be very, very streaky, and we also know that home field doesn't matter much. For example, so far in the 3 games being played in the championship series for both leagues, the road teams won every game. Dodgers won Game 1 on the road, Seattle won Game 1 and Game 2 in Toronto on the road. Home field, not nearly as important as you think in baseball, and I do think Toronto is not officially dead. However, I have to point out Toronto showing their inexperience, because they beat the Yankees, and we ended up knowing that they were taking the celebration pretty hard after the victory against the Yankees, whether it involved the post-game, I'd say, quotes from the locker room, the champagne celebration. It felt like Toronto, I know you celebrate when you beat a rival, but it kind of felt like Toronto beat the Yankees and then coasted and kind of forgot there were 2 rounds left to play. That's at least the vibe that I'm getting, where Toronto kind of got complacent. They beat the Yankees, who were one of the rivals, of course, in one of the bigger postseason, I'd say, series wins they've had in 20, 30 years. And they had a home run on the leadoff batter in Game 1. And it kind of felt like Toronto thought they had it in the bag and then immediately fell down 2-0. So I'm not going to fully write off Toronto. I do think they can, in theory, come back in the series. Am I picking them to win this series? Not anymore. But I do think that Toronto might have, I'd say, celebrated too quickly, beating a flawed Yankees team, instead of immediately turning focus to the ALCS and it seems like Toronto has been kind of sleepwalking for the first couple games. But either way, Seattle, nice job by them. I question the offense. They scored 10 runs today, or yesterday, I should say, and we'll see how they do moving forward into Game 3. Not covering that, though, in this episode. That's going to be in the next episode. So, moving on to the late game. This game was a lot closer than the Seattle game against Toronto because we had a 1-0 game enter in the ninth, and the offenses kind of got going a bit in the Dodgers game. Dodgers scored courtesy of a bases-loaded walk, and then you saw the Brewers almost come back, but Terang struck out the bases loaded to end the game. So, for starters, got to mention the crazy double play. So, you ended up seeing the Brewers have to deal with the bases loaded with Muncy up in the fourth inning with 1 out. Launched one to basically the wall, and you ended up seeing Frelick make a play. He ended up jumping, ball hit off the glove, hit the wall, and then he ended up catching it. So the ball was in play, yet somehow Milwaukee turned a double play and did not allow a run. They got the force out at home and then got another force out. So one of the weirdest double plays of all time. But you figure, all right, maybe with that happening, maybe it's meant to be for Milwaukee. Maybe they'll be able to take control momentum at home after the Dodgers squandered bases loaded 1 out on an all-timer double play. And Blake Snell said not so much. Blake Snell was basically perfect. Went 8 innings, gave up 1 hit, 10 strikeouts. For the record, he ended up picking off the guy who got the base hit. So Snell basically had a perfect game through 8 innings, and he was at 103 pitches. And Roberts said, you know what, we're good, and ended up pulling Blake Snell. Now, I understand that 100 pitches is now a certain threshold that most managers don't want to really cross over, which is why we have seen pitchers getting pulled earlier over the course of the season, and for the last couple of years, it's been the case. Having said that, Snell's in the middle of an all-time performance. Once again, 1 hit allowed, and he picked off the guy on first base. So nobody's reached second base the entire game, and Milwaukee can't do anything against him. Now, he's at 103 pitches. I know Sasaki, entering Game 1, was basically unhittable. I get it. Having said that, you should have let him start the inning. I'll start there. Snell was unbelievable, and they almost blew the entire game. Now, Sasaki didn't have it. Ended up getting a pop out for the first batter. Then it got dicey because he lost his command. Ended up seeing Bowers rope a double, and that actually resulted in a ground rule double to make it second and third. Then you ended up seeing Yelich walk. Then they brought in Trinan, and Trinan ended up... there was a sac fly by Churio. Yelich walked. They brought in Trinan, saw Contreras walk, and then you saw Terang dodge a hit by pitch, which in hindsight, not the best idea. If he got hit, it would have tied the game. But of course, reflexes, ended up seeing a curveball or a slider that almost hit him, ducked out of the way, and then swung at a pitch at his head to end up losing the game. So first of all, I get Terang should have moved out. I get Terang should have been hit by the pitch, and yet he ended up moving out of the way, which was not the right move. It's reflexes. It's 80 plus miles an hour. I get it. But of course, in hindsight, you got to let it hit you. I'll start there. Moving back, though, to Roberts, look, you got to let Snell start the inning. At the end of the day, when you're looking at a guy who's pitching like Sandy Koufax, a guy who's pitching like Bob Gibson, if you want to look at an all-time performance from any pitcher, you got to keep him in the game. I get 103 is 103, but damn, man, Snell should have been pitching in that 9th inning, and he almost blew the entire game. Now, it didn't matter in hindsight because the Dodgers won, so survive in advance, they're up 1-0 as they ended up winning Game 1 by a score of 2-1. But pulling Snell was absolutely egregious to me, and it almost came back to bite them. But you know what? I'll say the really bad managerial move by Murphy on the other end. Same thing happened in the Phillies series. You got to stop intentionally walking Ohtani. I understand Ohtani in the regular season is going to win MVP. He had 50-plus home runs, etc. He has a 138 batting average in the postseason. 138. And they intentionally walked him to load the bases to pitch to Betts. Now, I know Uribe is a solid pitcher. He can be wild, and he ended up walking Betts to score another run, which turned out to be the game-losing run because Milwaukee scored in the 9th inning but didn't tie the game. So the fact is, the same thing happened with Philly, did the same exact thing, and then you end up seeing Duran walk Betts to the bases loaded to give up a run. So, look, I understand the logic is you want to force hit every base. You want to potentially get a double play. At the same point, though, Ohtani's been so bad at the plate, you really can't afford to be giving him free passes. I get that he can burn you at any moment, but Betts is batting .333. Betts has been objectively good this postseason, a solid contact hitter as well, and you just walked him to let a wild pitcher face a great future Hall of Fame hitter with Betts, and I thought that was an insane choice. So that ended up coming back to bite Milwaukee because that was the run that put the game out of reach by preventing Milwaukee from tying the game in the 9th inning. But yeah, intentionally walking Ohtani doesn't make any sense when the guy's batting .138. So I thought that move was ridiculous, and it worked out to Los Angeles' benefit, and that turned out to be the dagger, so to speak, for Milwaukee. But Roberts pulling Snell was a mess, and using Trinan as well has been pretty bad this postseason. Was dangerous too. Got away with it because Terang dodged the hit by pitch. Either way, though, Dodgers ended up winning Game 1. Seattle's up 2-0, and now we'll move on into our thoughts for Game 2 of the NLCS, the only game on the card for Tuesday. Before we get into the actual breakdown of Game 2, a reminder that brought to you by our sponsor, MyBookie.ag. So you can use and bet on football, playoff baseball, college football. They have a prop builder second to none. And you can also use crypto for deposits and payouts and sign up for your new account. Use code SGPN for a special 100% bet back bonus $100 from customers. MyBookie.ag promo code SGPN. We're also brought to you by Novig, which is America's number one prediction market for sports. Getting some great prices if you use Novig. Available to the of states. Download the Novig app. Get $50 when you spend just $5 if you use promo code SGPN. To get on the actual Novig, promo code SGPN to get a solid deal. Once again, get $50 when you spend just $5 if you use promo code SGPN. Welcome back, everyone, to the MLB Gambling Podcast. Finished going through the recap of what happened on Monday. Time to run into the only game preview for Tuesday. Dodgers versus Brewers Game 2. Now, Dodgers are up 1-0. They've officially stolen home field for the immediate future. We'll see if they can potentially win another road game. But either way, Dodgers up 1-0. Basically a must-win game for Milwaukee. I think we'd agree based on the talent the Dodgers have. Going to be tough to come back from 2-0 down. So, especially when you lose both home games. So, Milwaukee, kind of in must-win territory here. Dodgers definitely want to take the 2-0 lead, but if they end up losing this game, not the end of the world. For the actual pitching matchup, you have Yamamoto against Peralta. For the money line, Dodgers minus 125. Milwaukee's around even money. For the over-under, I see 7.5. Run line, Dodgers minus 1.5 is a plus 145. Milwaukee plus 1.5 is minus 175. Now, Peralta this season faced Dodgers a couple of times. So far this season, he was fine. 11 innings pitched, 2 wins, no losses, a 3.27 ERA. So 11 innings, he was overall pretty good. I'll see if he can do it again here in Game 2 in a very big game for Milwaukee. Yamamoto, though, we know was very good in the early portion of the postseason as he ended up shutting down the Reds. 6 2/3, gave up no earned runs. Phillies, though, kind of got to him. 4 innings, 3 earned, 1 home run. So a mixed bag so far for Yamamoto in the postseason. His numbers against Milwaukee this season were objectively horrible. He made 1 outing, 2/3 of an inning, 5 runs allowed. So Yamamoto, not much of a sample here against Milwaukee, but it was, let's just say, not pretty the only time he faced this team. So you're looking at the pricing. I understand why Milwaukee is a dog in this game, because Yamamoto, we know, is the better pitcher. Just if you want to avoid any potential recent form, I do think Yamamoto, you could argue, is the better pitcher in general. Peralta was not great against the Cubs last start. Started Game 4, went 4 innings, gave up 3 runs, all courtesy of the home run by Happ in the first inning. Settled down after that, but the point is both pitchers not exactly off great starts last time out. Now, I do think for the price, I understand why the Dodgers are favored, but I don't really want to take it with the Dodgers. The game in Game 1 was very, very up and down, and I do think that Snell, of course, was the equalizer, or I should say the determining factor, because he was so good, Milwaukee's offense didn't do anything. I think they'll look better against Yamamoto, and I do think that Peralta should go pretty well in this outing. Now, Milwaukee burned a lot of relievers because they ended up using an opener for Game 1. Priester came in and was actually good. 4 innings, no runs. They got Patrick in, gave up the home run to Freeman. Koenig came in, and you saw McGill, and you ended up seeing Uribe. So, decent amount of relievers actually did pitch for Milwaukee. I'm assuming if they double down, they might. They have an off day on Wednesday, so we'll see. The Dodgers bullpen, though, is basically fully intact. I know Sasaki pitched, and you ended up seeing Trenton for about 2 batters. But Snell gave the entire bullpen some time off. So if Yamamoto doesn't have it, maybe they pull him early. We'll see. But either way, I think for the actual pricing for this game, I understand why the Dodgers are favored. Am I taking the Dodgers? I am not. I think getting plus money for Milwaukee at home against Yamamoto, who was not good against Milwaukee in the regular season, and on top of that, he was not good in his last start. I think Peralta can bounce back after the bad outing in his last start against Chicago on the road. Now he's back at home. We saw him shut down the Cubs in that series at home. I think he should look sharp again. I'll go Peralta in this game at plus money. I think it's interesting. And I do think that you could argue the values on Milwaukee for what could be a coin flip. But Peralta this season, 3.71 ERA on the road, 1.77 ERA at home. So clearly better at home. Think he'll look sharp in this one. And I do think that Yamamoto, who was also very good on the road, 2.13 ERA, I do think is going to struggle a bit against this Milwaukee team. I think Milwaukee is just going to be thrilled that they didn't face off against Snell again. But you look at the numbers that Milwaukee's batters have against Yamamoto, no sample at all because they only faced him basically one time. But 4 hits and 7 at-bats with 4 RBIs and 1 home run. So I think Milwaukee can get to him. The Yamamoto is more vulnerable than the odds maker suggests. I think Milwaukee's alive to win it. Give me Milwaukee at plus money at home to even up the series at 1. Think I'll go with the over in this game. I do think that you're going to end up seeing Yamamoto and Peralta give up some traffic, and maybe 1 home run with guys on base is the, I'd say, decisive blow for the underbetters. But I'll go with the over in this game. I think that 7.5 does feel reasonable, but I think it's a bit low for me. I'll go with the over for this one. I see 7, actually. I'll take the over 7 at around minus 120 on Caesars. I'll take that before it moves. Give me the over, though, and give me the Brewers to get the job done in this game. Moving on, though, to player props for this game. So I'm going to start off with Yamamoto. I see his outs are set at 17.5. The over is minus 116. The under is set at minus 114. I'm going to go with the under. He had 12 outs against the Phillies in his last start. He was very good against the Reds in his first postseason start. Still got into some trouble in the first inning. Managed to get through it, but the Reds, I think we'd all agree in hindsight, were the worst playoff team out of the bunch. But Yamamoto, we saw against the Dodgers against the Brewers this season, got 2 outs. I don't think he's going to pitch that well. I do think Dodgers bullpen being pretty rested can give extra incentive to Roberts to lift him if he does end up struggling. But I think Milwaukee will have a better approach at the plate. I think that, simply put, Snell was too good. I think Milwaukee's offense will bounce back here. And Yamamoto, I think, can get into some trouble, can walk some guys, might see the pitch count climb. I'll go with the under 17.5 outs for Yamamoto. Think he'll pitch pretty well, but I see him going 5 and change. I don't see him going 6 full. Give me the under on the outs for Yamamoto at 17.5. Looking at the argument, though, for Peralta, I don't mind the under strikeouts for Peralta here. Strikeouts are a 5.5. He's been going over regularly. He has gone over 9 of the last 10. However, the Dodgers have been good against him. Dodgers only struck out 4 times against him in the last outing, struck out 7 times the time before that. But Peralta's actually struck out less than 5 guys in 3 of his last 4 starts against LA. So I actually don't mind kind of a contrarian under on the strikeouts for Peralta at 5.5. The under is plus 105, plus 103 on DraftKings. I find it interesting that for a guy that's gone over this number in so far this season, he has gone over this number in 25 of 35 starts. The number's at 5.5. Feels kind of trappy. I think the Dodgers do a good job of making contact with Peralta. Pitch count might get a bit high. We know Peralta's pitch count can kind of get out of sorts. The Dodgers in game 1 only struck out 4 times. Seeing the ball quite well. Think they'll make some contact. Give me Peralta under on the 5.5 strikeouts at plus money as my contrarian play for him. Besides that, I think I'll go for another plus money play. I'm going to go with Pages no hits at plus 115. Damn, he's been terrible so far this postseason. So for Pages' numbers, Pages so far in the postseason, he is batting it. I mean, it's absolutely disgusting. He has a batting average of 37. 37 is his batting average in the postseason. It is absolutely filthy. Looking at the actual numbers here, he is 1 for 27. 1 for 27 with a hit by pitch. It is not good. Now, I will point out he actually did help win the series for the Dodgers. He's the one who hit the ground ball back to the pitcher as the Phillies pitcher ended up airmailing the throw home. But Pages has been awful. 1 for 27, and I can get his no hits at plus money. I got to play that. Give me Pages no hits at plus 115. Think that's definitely worth something. Might get pinch hit for in this game. We'll see. But I do think that for a guy who's been that lost at the plate, plus money is something I have to play. And he actually came in. Actually, I'm trying to see if he ended up getting lifted in the game. He did not. He might be in this game coming up, but we'll see. In his career against Peralta, he's 0 for 7. So I like the idea of Pages being bad in head-to-head, being bad overall. I'll take the no hits there at plus 115. Anyway, this is going to wrap it up for game 2. I get the Brewers at plus money. I like the over 7, and I'll also go for some props. I'll go for the Yamamoto under outs, the Peralta under strikeouts, and the no-hit prop for Pods. It's going to wrap it up, though, for game 2. Before getting to the lock and dog picks, a reminder, they're brought to you by our sponsor, which is Owner Fantasy. Play their pick'em entries, chance to win 500 times your entry, pick higher or lower on your favorite player stats. Available for 10 different sports as well, so you can mix and match if you want to, with baseball, football, basketball, hockey, you name it. They also have a new offer for new customers. Play just $5, get $100 bonus funds. Use promo code MLB SGPN. We're also brought to you by Rhythm. They're off to a great start in college football and NFL picks and props, giving away weekly cash prizes just for tracking your bets in the app. Track 5 bets of the same type of model that you build, and you can win $1K. So build a model, track 5 plays, and you can win $1,000. Use promo code SGPN25, and you're now on the Rhythm app for a quarter off first month. That Rhythm, once again, promo code SGPN25 for a quarter off your first month. Welcome back, everyone, to the MLB Gambling Podcast. Finished going through my thoughts for Game 2. Time to move on into the lock and dog picks. For the lock, I'm going to run back the Yamamoto outs, actually. I'm going to go with the under at 17.5. Available at minus 114. I like the price. Yamamoto was really bad against Milwaukee in the regular season in the one outing. He only had 12 outs against Philly. It's also based on Snell. Snell was so good, most of the bullpen didn't get used. So the Dodgers could, in theory, unload the bullpen with a day off tomorrow. And I think you're looking at Yamamoto, who should go fine in this game. But I think if he gets into trouble somewhere in the 4th or 5th inning, don't be surprised if you end up seeing the Dodgers actually warm up some people in the bullpen, knowing that they have a chance to potentially take a 2-0 series lead. Yamamoto, for the pitches, at 113 against the Reds, 67 against Philly. So you could argue that maybe he's in line to go for 100 again. I don't know about that. I think Milwaukee might make him work for it, and they can work some walks, can work some counts. But I think you're looking at Yamamoto, whose number is just a bit too high, going 6 full in Milwaukee. Still a tough place to play. I'll chalk up the Game 1 no-show to Snell being incredible. I think Yamamoto and his outs are a bit too high here at 17.5. Give me the under on his outs as my lock at minus 114. For the dog, once again, going to Pages. Give me the no hits for him. Think it's a bargain at plus 115. He's had 1 hit the entire postseason for basically 2 and change rounds, and his no hits at plus 115. Over 7 lifetime against Peralta. Think there is some value with him being 0 for 7 in the head-to-head, and with him just being a mess at the plate all postseason. I'll go with the under for his hits at plus 115 as my dog. For my home run pick, who do I want to go with for this one? Because the only guy with a home run against Yamamoto was Vaughn, but he only faced 7 batters. So a bit tricky there. Let me see Peralta with his numbers. I could see him giving up a home run in this one. Peralta has allowed at least 1 home run in 6 straight starts. So I might go to Peralta there. Freeman has 1. Betts has 1. Will Smith actually has 1. And Ohtani has 2. Freeman had 1 in game 1. I'm annoyed at myself. I was going to pick him initially, and then I ended up switching to Ohtani. I'll go with Freeman, actually. I think Freeman might have got something going from game 1. I'll pick him again for game 2. I think it's a decent spot. I do think his home run price at 6-1 is very generous. Give me, once again, Freddie Freeman home run at plus 600 as my home run pick for game 2. Anyway, it's going to wrap it up for the show. Back once again for the Wednesday game tomorrow. Till next time, good luck to all of you and all of your bets. Bye, everyone.